with the understanding that the process is not over.
Andrea Michelle Reyes is now 27 years old.
Welcome to Ms. Mojo, and today we're looking at cases of abduction and false imprisonment that took at least a decade to be resolved.
Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
I have never ever seen something like this.
What are your...
Kaspar Hauser. In 1828, a young man appeared in Nuremberg, seemingly out of nowhere. With hardly any information on him and little ability to speak, he was written off as a person experiencing homelessness. However, the townspeople learned soon after of Kaspar Hauser's tragic upbringing. From the time he was born in 1812, he had been imprisoned in a cell. People would come and leave him food or provide care while he slept, leaving him isolated and unable to communicate with anyone.
Woher kommst du?
Hat einmal gesagt aus Regensburg.
Bekannt eben nicht bekannt. Ja, aus Regensburg.
Die geistige Bildung dieses Menschen ist in einem Zustand der totalen Verwahrlosung.
It wasn't until he was 16 that he met another person, a man in a mask who taught him how to walk and write. Soon afterward, that same man freed Kaspar from his confinement and took him to Nuremberg, where he would spend the rest of his days.
Bleib hier stehen. Wart hier. Wart hier auf mich.
Jaycee Lee Dugard. It's hard to imagine something as simple as walking to the bus stop, resulting in nearly 2 decades of captivity. That was the horrific reality for Jaycee Dugard, who was making her school journey when she was kidnapped in 1991. The perpetrators, Philip and Nancy Garrido, kept her in their backyard, where she was subjected to constant abuse.
She reaches the road. A gray car pulls up. A stranger rolls down the window.
And his hand shoots out, and I just feel numb.
A series of police mishaps prevented authorities from finding her, leading to her continued imprisonment. Throughout the 1990s, Dugard had 2 children, who were both confined with her. It wasn't until Philip took her daughters to an event at the University of California in August of 2009 that he was finally investigated. Days later, he and Nancy were arrested, and Jaycee was reunited with her parents after 18 years.
If the girls say someday they want to go see him, can't bear that.
It's their decision.
Sun Wei. This case is proof of just how important resilience is. In 1995, the young Sun Wei was taken from his family in Liangshanyi and taken to Jieyang, where he was sold to another couple and given a new identity. The abduction was reported, but a lack of photos made investigating it difficult. Sun's father traveled for months in an attempt to find him, but the trail ran cold no matter where he went. Over the next 20 years, Sun Wei remained aware of what had happened to him. In 2014, he reported his faux family and submitted his DNA, where he was matched to his birth parents. In 2015, they were reunited, bringing their 2-decade ordeal to an end. Elizabeth Wesson and her children. For over 2 decades, one man was able to keep his whole family in his clutches. It all began in 1974, when Marcus Wesson set his sights on his daughter-in-law Elizabeth. After years of abuse, she was wed to him in 1980, where things took an even darker turn. Elizabeth and her eventual children were subjected to unrelenting torture, including physical injuries, manipulation, and worse. His daughters even fell pregnant with his children, which they were forced to carry to term.
The tangled family tree of 57-year-old Marcus Wesson includes his wife, their 11 children, plus 7 more he fathered with his own daughters and nieces.
Things came to a head in 2004 when Fresno police were called. Marcus reacted by slaying 9 of his children. He was arrested, and for the first time in 24 years, his remaining family was free from his manipulative ways.
Even today, sharing the way they existed is difficult.
You don't want to do that.
The questions, I wasn't prepared for the questions that they were asking, but I tried to answer as honestly as I could.
Carlina White. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. That was the case for Carlina White, who had been snatched as a baby from a New York City hospital in 1987. She was raised by her kidnapper Ann Petway and renamed Nedra Nance. It wasn't until her supposed mother couldn't provide a birth certificate for her in her teens that she became suspicious. In 2005, Petway finally admitted that she wasn't Carlina's birth mother, prompting the latter to search databases until she found photos of herself as a baby.
She decided to take matters into her own hands by looking on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children website. Searching her birth year, she spotted this photo of a baby, along with a composite of how the child would look at 19.
In January of 2011, a DNA test confirmed her true identity. That same month, Petway turned herself in, and White was finally able to meet her biological parents for the first time in 23 years.
That age progression composite uncanny. And today, father, mother, and daughter in this New York Post photo beaming.
Albanidia Alvarez. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. Following the death of his wife, Armando Alvarez went down a dark path. His daughter, Albanidia, became his prime victim in what would be a 25-year-long period of confinement. From the time she was a child in 1984, she was forbidden to leave the home, where she grew up impoverished. She was also subjected to constant assault, which led to her falling pregnant 14 times throughout her captivity. In 2009, Albanidia was able to leave town with some of her children, where she was finally able to report the torment she'd been put through. Armando was arrested that year, allowing his daughter her first real taste of freedom in her life. Andrea Reyes. This highlights the importance in not letting cold cases die. In 1999, Andrea Reyes was just a baby when her mother kidnapped her from Connecticut and took her across the border to Puebla, Mexico.
Police in New Haven, Connecticut say she was abducted by her mother, who did not have legal custody of her in 1999. They fled to Mexico. Law enforcement tried to bring her home.
Her dad did everything he could to find her, including traveling there several times and searching for her himself. Unfortunately, his efforts were futile, and the case eventually fell to the wayside. It was reopened in 2023 when Reyes was in her 20s and still residing in the town she'd been brought to. Andrea took the initiative to reach out to her father, and after a DNA test, their familial relationship was confirmed.
We have some sense of happiness, but the chapter is not closed yet.
We recognize that this reacquaintance will have challenges. However, we are confident that God is building the path before us.
Blanche Monnier. Being kept a prisoner is terrifying enough, but being locked away in your own home must feel even more hopeless. When Blanche Monnier was 27, she had dreams of marrying a lawyer. Her mother didn't approve, and she expressed that by locking her daughter away in their attic. Her family kept up the ruse, pretending as though she had gone missing entirely. Her suitor passing away and her friends being left in the dark meant she was alone, with no one looking for her. After 25 years, an official received word of her imprisonment. When she was finally found, they were met with the sight of an extremely emaciated older woman, a shell of the socialite she'd been before being subject to such cruel treatment. Lydia Gouardo. Being imprisoned by your loved ones is a harrowing thought on its own, much less the idea of being tortured by them. Lydia Gouardo's girlhood was put on abrupt hold when her stepfather entered her life. As a young girl, she became his victim. She claimed to have made attempts to escape as a child, but was always returned by the police. The abuse escalated well into adulthood, where he thwarted more of her efforts to free herself. She remained in his clutches until his fate in 1999, when she was in her late 30s. Since then, she's dedicated her days to making her story known and criticizing the authorities that allegedly failed her throughout her youth. Kelly and Kimberly Yates. To many, August 26, 1985 was a completely normal day. For Norman Yates, however, it marked the final time he saw his daughters Kelly and Kimberly. That day, their mother Elaine took them and fled following a fight where he'd reportedly struck her. For years, the girls' location was kept secret, even after a judge ordered Elaine's mother to disclose it. Decades went by and Kimberly and Kelly were still nowhere to be found. That is, until December of 2016, when an anonymous tip on their whereabouts was made.
The girls were 10 months and 3 years old back in 1985 when their mother took them and disappeared. Police say 2 days before this past Christmas, they got an anonymous tip that led them to find the daughters and their mother in Houston, Texas.
32 years after they'd been kidnapped, the two were discovered living in Houston in January of 2017. Elaine was arrested, and her daughters were given their father's contact information for the first time since their abduction.
We got to find out what's going on.
Do you think she should be prosecuted?
That ain't going to help her, me, or anybody else at this point. I just want to see my kids.
Jermaine Mann.
A mother and her son are finally back together 31 years after the boy was allegedly kidnapped by his own father.
It's estimated that a majority of kidnappings are done by the victim's own kin, including their guardians. This was unfortunately the case for Jermaine Mann, who was purportedly taken across the border from Canada into the United States by his father as a toddler.
I grabbed him and I squeezed his head. I want to feel if he's real. I touched him. I said, "Oh my God, my baby. You have my eyes." He hugged me and he kissed me.
The manipulation went on his entire childhood, with him being raised to believe he was born in America and that his mom had died during his birth. Mann would have gone the rest of his days believing these lies until interviews with other relatives revealed his location to the police in 2018. Jermaine was able to reunite with his mother in his 30s, debunking one of the biggest lies he'd been told.
And police have also confirmed, Todd, that Jermaine Mann was actually also living under a fake identity for the last 31 years.
Feng Lulu. Her story is proof that everything can change in one horrific instant. In 1989, Feng Lulu was still a little one when she was suddenly captured. She had been sold to another family and raised as their own, being fed constant stories that her parents had sold her after supposedly not being able to afford her. While she knew that she had been adopted, she wouldn't know her true identity until the 21st century, when she was found in a database. That information made it possible for her to be found and located, finally ending her lifelong ordeal. She was in her 30s by the time she met with her mother and father, but that didn't stop them from immediately embracing her. Jingwei. While some children who are abducted at a young age have no memories of their previous lives, some are able to cling to them. Jingwei was ripped away from everything he knew and bought by another household. Although they gave him a new name, he never forgot his true roots. He spent his youth drawing what he remembered of his town, keeping it in his mind. He was able to rely on those memories as an adult, posting his drawing online in the hopes of gathering information. It was spread far and wide, allowing officials to eventually find his biological mom. They were able to embrace for the first time since he was a boy, bringing an end to their long nightmare. Mao Yin. The feeling of being with your child one second, only for them to vanish the next, is every parent's worst fear. In 1988, that unfortunately came true for Mao Yin's father, who had been the last one to see his son before his unexpected disappearance. Yin's mother proceeded to spend the following decades attempting to get him back, no matter what. Her efforts helped dozens of other families be reunited, with no luck of her own. With the use of facial recognition software, authorities were able to eventually track him down. His identity was confirmed in 2020, allowing them to reunite. After 32 years and several families reformed, she was able to relax and finally bond with her son. Ronique Pepper Smith.
This young woman, Pepper Smith, looking for her parents, who she thought she'd been separated from, and lived for 37 years in a constant search for.
What started as a normal night for Jolene Coleman ended in horror when she discovered her baby daughter was missing. Ronique Smith was taken by her babysitter Shirley and given to another woman named Barbara Christie, who then legally adopted her. 4 years later, Shirley kidnapped Smith again. For years, she was referred to as Pepper and forced to live with her abductor.
She kidnapped Pepper again, kept her close, dragging her and another little girl from one ratty motel to another. It was a childhood of chaos and poverty and violence.
As a teenager, she fled and started a life of her own. It wasn't until 2009 that she received a copy of her birth certificate, which led her to her adoptive parents. The good news didn't end there. In 2011, she reconnected with her birth mother, who finally got to adopt her over 40 years after she'd gone missing.
The one that began all those years ago, the remarkable story of two young women and their search for their identity and their mother.
Holly Clouse.
Oh my goodness. I know you from your picture.
Her world was turned upside down before she could even walk. Holly Clouse was a baby when her parents were killed, and she was whisked away from the scene of the crime. Investigators had no idea she had been relocated from Texas to Arizona and raised by an unsuspecting pastor.
God kept me safe and protected all these years, and I just want you to know that.
Indeed, for more than 40 years, until her parents' bodies were identified, the police didn't even know there was a child missing. In 2022, they found her alive and well. She lived a full life, unaware of the horrific event that led to her adoption. She connected with her relatives for the first time as an adult.
We're not going to give up on the people that did this. No, ma'am. Find out. That's right. I promise that. One day we will. We will know.
Melissa Highsmith.
Do you think you'll see Melissa again?
As an infant, Melissa Highsmith had been left with a babysitter and subsequently stolen. She grew up believing her captor was her matriarch, and amazingly, was relocated just 10 minutes away from her true family. After years of being excessively sheltered and told she had brain damage, she eventually ran away at 15. This inadvertently put even more space between herself and her true family.
We found it through her children. My mother and father submitted it to Ancestry, and 3andMe, and 3 weeks within them submitting it, we found my sister. It was like boom, boom, boom.
Eventually, a DNA test confirmed a link between one of her own children and her dad, allowing her to reunite with her parents. Shortly afterwards, she legally changed her name back to Melissa Highsmith, reclaiming the moniker that had once been taken from her.
It is overwhelming, but at the same time, it's just the most wonderful feeling in the world.
Susan Gervaise. What started out as a potential trip to Disney World ended in something much more insidious. In the late 1960s, a child named Susan Gervaise was allowed to travel with a couple under the guise of going on vacation. That was a lie, resulting in her being transported from the United Kingdom to Canada and then Australia and New Zealand. She made it to adolescence without realizing anything was amiss. Even after learning the truth at 16, she was content to not know every detail. It wasn't until later on that she realized the reality of her situation and set out to find her birth parents. She had an answer within a half hour, enabling her to see her father again after over half a century. Dolly Ann Henson. She is living proof of how resilient some people can be. When Dolly Ann Henson was lured away and taken across the country as a young girl, she had no idea just how long she'd remain missing. Her birth certificate was rumored to have been changed along with her name, making it impossible to trace her origins. Although her kidnapper attempted to sour her against her family, she never lost hope. When her records were lost to a fire, it seemed like her efforts would end there. However, in 2009, she was finally able to locate and meet several relatives, including her sister. At 61, she had finally found what she had spent a lifetime searching for, allowing her to finally be at ease. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Luis Armando Albino.
According to the family, Luis was lured away in 1951 by a woman who offered him candy.
After nearly 3/4 of a century, he finally received closure. In 1951, Luis Armando Albino was lured away by a strange woman and abducted. He was taken to the East Coast, where he was raised by people whom he believed were his birth parents. Decades passed, and he created a life and family of his own. 69 years after his disappearance, his niece took a DNA test and happened to match with him.
And then there was one picture that he really, really looked like my grandmother. That one kind of gave me chills. And I said, no, there's something here.
After being unable to reach him, she took her findings to the FBI in 2024. 73 years after being kidnapped, Albino's true identity was confirmed. He finally reunited with his brother for the first time since they were children, ending their lifelong ordeal.
The FBI and other agencies then helped find him and reunited the family after 73 years. They hugged, and he said, "Thanks for finding me."
Which of these cases are you most surprised went unsolved for so long? Let us know in the comments.